Hello and welcome back to the Chattercade podcast, where we discuss media in the forms of reviews. I'm your host, Rankin Thomas Hughes, and today I'm finishing off a series I started back in July now, which is Castle. See, back in July I covered series 1 and got my thoughts on it. Obviously, my first impressions on it basically, and was like, okay, this is the first time I've ever watched it. This is my opinion. Last month I then covered series 2 and 3 and did the exact same. Get my opinions on both seasons, and I spoke about the idea of doing series 4 and 5 next, and then obviously be 6 and 7, and then finally I'd cover season 8. But that plan kind of went out the window because I got into a full binge watch phase with this show. So today's episode isn't me talking about series 4 and 5 of Castle. It's me talking about series 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and kind of give my overall opinion on the back end of this show, because as I say, I binge watched the hell out of this. I mean, this episode is pretty much going to hit the back end of September, but I actually finished this show at the end of August. I mean, it took me from series 1 to 8. It's got to take me a month and maybe a couple of weeks to sit through the whole thing. I just could not put the show down. It was just so good. It was funny. It had heart. It had everything you want it to be, and it's one of those things where I'm like, damn, it's a shame I never watched this when it first came out, because it's so fucking good. And obviously, I love season 1 to 3, and season 4 to 8 offers new storylines. It offers returning storylines, and that's good. Obviously, I like the returning storylines because I mean, we get like the 3XK stuff finally finished. We get the Beckett's mom's death storyline finally completed. There's a lot of stories that we've had slowly been building up, finally coming to a close, including the main story overall, which obviously gets concluded within the 8th season. The series 4 to 8 offers from 23 episodes to 22 episodes, 24 episodes. Some offer 24 episodes, some offer 23, and then the series finale, series 8, actually only offers 22 episodes. It's the second shortest series in the overall show, and obviously, I said, it's cool. Obviously, one of the things I do love about this is obviously the drawing out of certain plots, because there's certain ones that, well, to be fair, most of the show plots, apart from the final season, most of the time they introduce a plot line, say even including the Beckett's mom murder. That's something they only bring back every now and again. They come to it at certain points in the season, and that's it for that season. You might not see it again until the next season, and that's what I do a lot with this. And I said the 3XK one, I mean, they kept bringing that back at least, near enough like once a season, maybe once every 2 seasons. They kept bringing it back before finally finishing it off in season 7, I think it was. They finally finished that storyline off, and it obviously was a decent and solid enough ending for one of the show's obviously big storylines. On top of that, obviously, there's a lot more stories that start to go now, and start being brought in. Obviously, for the first 3 seasons, there's always that will they, won't they romance between Beckett and Castle. Obviously, as these seasons go on, you finally get to delve more into this love story, this romantic relationship between them, to the point of them in the early days of the romance, to a point of them getting married, and there's all these plot lines related in regard to that, and that does add extra storyline possibilities for the show, because you get to deal with obviously them trying to hide this relationship from everyone else. You get to deal with them trying to obviously plan their wedding. You get to just be with them as they're trying to navigate through this workplace romance that they've started, and that's obviously going further than probably both of them may have expected at the time, and that's I say it's pretty cool. And you get to see them both going through new paths in their careers. Obviously, Beckett, we get to see attempt at one point to go from a cop to more of like a FBI type role. Obviously, it wasn't the FBI; it was like this other bureau she's a part of. But you get to see her try and navigate that, even if it's just like 3 episodes with it. And that's what I noticed, to be fair, a lot of times when they try and push these characters into new careers, essentially. They only ever last a couple of episodes before they switch back to their old careers. But to be fair, that then adds these extra couple of episodes where you can see another side to this character. So that it does it with the Beckett gets to go for this path, and then obviously Castle gets to go for it within the last season, where he is it last season. No, yes, no. Was it season before? Actually, ignore me. I need to check on IMDb. I think it was series. I swear it was series 7. Actually, like halfway through series 7. Castle. So series 7. Yes, it was. Obviously, halfway through series 7, we get to see Castle booted out of the police because of obviously a case involving the mob, and we get to see him then have to go through different ways of trying to still work with the cops, even if he's not allowed to. And in his case, it's becoming a PI. Again, that only lasts a little bit, but to be fair, at least with the PI thing, obviously, because at one point they introduced him having an office, at least that's something they do keep around, not just throughout Series 7, the back end of Series 7, but it's something they also utilise a lot within Series 8, especially the panic room they have in the office. So I like the fact that, though that one, just like the other times they go through different career paths, though obviously it has a very short span in the series, it's something that still has an after effect on the show, and I do like that. And to be fair, that was pretty fun. At the two big career changes in the show, Castle's one was definitely the better one, because obviously the Beckett one, it was pretty much she was doing the same sort of thing but on a bigger scale. Whereas with Castle, he's got to do a lot of the stuff he needs to, what he's been doing, for the past 7.5 seasons. He's got to do all that without technically the official help of the police. And obviously he goes to all these different routes. I mean, he even does get some cases that spin off from the main case, and it kind of draws him back into it. I mean, for example, see which one it is. Yeah, obviously the second episode when he's a PI, obviously, because the first one he's a PI, he basically butts into the case and keeps getting kicked out constantly, but keeps coming back. The second one, obviously, Beckett throws him a bone and is like, okay, you can have this case. It's linked to our case, but it's not actually fully in our case. It's like a missing purse. And he gets that, and obviously that eventually slowly just draws him back into the main storyline. And that makes sense. Give him his own little plot where he can have a bit of jokes and whatnot. He can show off his Castle investigative abilities before drawing him back into the main plot line to help him finish it off. And I did like that. And obviously, the only thing that obviously I found this show does suffer with is always its captain role, because obviously it had the captain throughout the first 3 seasons. Was it 3 seasons? Yes. Did I think? Yes, it was. Obviously they had the one captain throughout the first 3 seasons. Then season 4 brought in a brand new captain to replace him. And obviously she lasted then till series 7 before getting replaced herself. But to be fair, obviously, at least with the first and last captain of this show, they make sense. The first one, obviously, I can't remember his name. Where's his name on here? That's it, Roy Montgomery. He made sense because obviously he did draw into Beckett's mom's death storyline. He was very heavily involved in that storyline, so it does make sense that how obviously his story panned out in the end. And then the last captain, obviously, eventually being spoiler alert here, Beckett, makes sense because that's the whole point of her character. She's slowly, obviously, getting to the point of where she's in charge and doing more things than just being this detective. And that made sense. It's just the middle captain, obviously, Captain Victoria Gates. I've got the cast here. I'm sliding across when I need the name. Obviously, she comes into it. She plays this character that very much, unlike the first Captain Montgomery, she very much hates Castle a lot of the times. There's only a few times when she doesn't hate him. And she comes in and probably, obviously, she's now a lot longer then Montgomery. So I said Montgomery had 3 seasons, where she got 4. I don't know why I had to fucking think about that. So she got 1 extra season than him, but I felt like she was in it less at times, and so that they didn't really draw her in as much as they did with Montgomery. Yeah, she got a few episodes here and there, but I feel like for the fact they drew him into the big storyline of the show, made him decent as a character. Whereas obviously, as I said, the replacement captain, they draw her into the storyline, but more the case of she's getting told of what's going on. And as I said, I don't think they did that much of her. I mean, it was an interesting change of character. The fact that they went from someone who, likes Castle enough to someone who just does not like Castle whatsoever, to then someone who technically sleeps with Castle. It's an interesting change. It's just that, obviously, I don't think they do very much with the captain role, really. And as I say, then by the end of the 8th season, obviously, technically, Beckett became like the shortest spanning captain on the show, for the fact she got 1 season as captain. But still, I feel like across the season 4 to 8, there's a lot going on. Every character has an episode to shine. Obviously, Javier and Ryan, as always, are fucking hilarious. I mean, they go from the point of they're bros to the point of they kind of hate each other because Ryan accidentally shoots Javier in the ass. And they go for a point of where they're going through therapy to try and solve this relationship. Because to be fair, Ryan is trying to redeem himself. He is trying to get back in Javier's good books, but Javier's being, Javier, and kind of just like being like, no, fuck off, you shot me in the ass. And they're getting to the point of they're almost breaking apart before finding a situation that brings them back together finally. And I said there's a lot of really good episodes, to be fair. If I look at the episode list here, that offers so much. I mean, season 4 kicks off straight away where season 3 ended with the big pivotal moment where Montgomery's dead, Beckett gets shot, and season 4, the very beginning of the episode starts with her obviously fighting for her life in the hospital. There's moments where she's obviously Castle is having to deal with obviously her boyfriend because he's pissed off, blaming him for everything, and there's a lot going on in these scenes, and there's a lot of emotion at stakes before they eventually shift into the rest of the plot line, obviously, which is obviously involving her getting back into action. And obviously, there's a lot going on for it. The 4th season, a lot of funny episodes, a lot of serious episodes. And then season 5, if I look at the first episode, season 5, obviously season 5 is where they start getting into this romance plotline with Castle and Beckett, because season 4 ends with again pivotal moment, another moment really where Javier and Ryan kind of get that divide in between them, where they're kind of like not bros at the moment, and I said there's a lot of tension between them, and eventually I said this whole event leads to Castle and Beckett finally sleeping together, and then it's kind of the rest of the season's them navigating the early stages of this romance, and then obviously they kind of get thrown a spanner in the works with season 6, 'cause that's when obviously she switches jobs for a little bit, and they're kind of dealing with that, which obviously is eventually ties into the marriage. Obviously, the marriage then leads to an abduction plot line, and then you try and deal with what's gone on, what's happened to Castle, and this obviously at the end of season 7, and kind of dealing with that. And season 8 is him trying to at times figure out what the fuck's gone on, before eventually season 9 kicks in. It obviously changes the game by having the precinct complete change with the new captain stepping in, and Castle and Beckett trying to navigate a very difficult and rocky stage in this marriage they're in, where obviously Beckett's drawn back into the fire with essentially the puppeteers of the big bad guys that you've been seeing for obviously in this show, the sort of main plot point bad guys. Obviously, she gets drawn into the trying to figure out who the puppeteer is, and that kind of puts a very a bad stain on her relationship with Castle. So that's what I do like about the show. There's a lot of ups and downs. Even when they finally get to the point where you're like, okay, this is what we've been waiting for. This is the will they, won't they part of the story. They're finally at it, and we're at the point where they're throwing so many spanners in the works as they're trying to get to, can they make this work? And even when you finally think, okay, they're finally at the stage, married, they're in some good times now, and then that completely goes out the window again because that Spanner's back, and it's such a rocky road until the point of they can finally solve this, and they realize, okay, we work best together. Let's use that, even if we have to do it in like secret and stuff like that. And it adds a lot more humor to the plots before finally coming to a triumphant conclusion, essentially, in the series finale. But as I say, like each season offers more or less what you've been getting so far, and obviously Series 8 is the only one where really this plot line, this overarching plot line, is essentially actually played out a lot more episode by episode. Obviously, yes, there's always some sort of other plot going on, but there's always this minor plot, minor plot that's building up to the big plot still going on. Because every time they've done it before, especially the Beckett's murder and obviously Castle's abduction and stuff like that, they've always just been sprinkled throughout. They haven't been kind of playing side by side with the main story. They've just been sprinkled, first episode here, middle, maybe one at the end, next season, sort of the same situation. It's kind of been played like that. But with Series 8, because the fact it's the last season, they've got to get through this storyline a lot quicker, so it's a lot more present throughout the season. And obviously that kind of, I did write it down, obviously, in my notes here. I didn't write too many notes. I mean, I was supposed to write notes for all seasons, but I wrote barely anything for Series 4, to mention the obviously opening, obviously the series following the big ending, Series 3, and I obviously wrote down about the relationship angle with Series 5, but Series 6, 7, I just haven't had a chance to write anything down note-wise. But Series 8, I've got a massive paragraph, because personally, Series 8 for me was the weakest season. And that's not saying it's bad. Don't get me wrong, I still love every episode. I think what lets Series 8 down is its finale, its ending. Because as they went through the season, they pretty much knew there's a possibility it's not getting picked up again. Because obviously I pointed out in the first season, obviously, that it got cancelled by Series 8. And I was looking into it and reading it, and obviously during Series 8, it got to the point where most of the cast had signed on for Series 9, apart from, obviously, the actress who plays Beckett and the actress who plays Lani. They didn't sign up for another season. They got cut out because of budgetary reasons, but everyone else was pretty much there to go. Only problem was it was going to be a shorter season. When I'm reading about this, I'm just like, okay, that's just sounding like trash. I was like, the whole point of this show is Castle and Beckett. They've been the pivotal point for 8 seasons. You're literally just going to alienate her completely. And it's like, okay, how they play it out, you can kind of see where they would alienate. And you're like, okay, it's kind of a Lethal Weapon situation here from season 2 to 3. You can kind of understand where they're going to go with this. And that's like, and you look at it like that, you go, okay, that's fine. It's an interesting angle. Let's see how they can carry that on to another season. But obviously, they didn't do that. And one of the things that pissed me off with the finale is there's so much crammed into it to finish up this storyline to a group called LOXAT, which is the big bad guys of the show. Obviously, there's so much crammed into this episode to try and wrap up that storyline. Obviously, you've got an abduction plot line, you've got some action sequences, you've got betrayals, you've got the final big reveal of who LOXAT really is, which is a shame because the characters they choose for it, if they played their cards right, it would have been fine. But I feel like for the fact this character gets one episode prior to this, and the kind of build up was like it's a betrayal of trust when it happens. It's just like, well, not really, because A, we only met them once, and B, the cast and characters only met them once. I don't mind the Beckett's mom murderer being this random, obviously, politician guy that we've never really met. That's fine. That made sense for the story. I just think his puppeteer just made no sense whatsoever. The way they handled it, at least. And then to top that off, obviously they've got all this, and it's like, okay, that's it, fine. It's a happy ending. We've done. And then they throw in an angle which is very clearly a to be continued angle with a big sort of dying angle essentially, which is what they did with obviously Lethal Weapon Series 2, where they shot the character of Riggs before obviously going to Series 3, and obviously the whole point of Series 3 at the start was going to be him fighting for survival, but then stuff happened behind the scenes, and they basically just used that as an angle to fully kill him off, which killed off the show entirely. Obviously, I understand why they got rid of him. It's just person it killed off the show. And you can see that they were trying to do something similar with this, and especially with her not signing back up, you can kind of go, okay, this is probably their way of getting her out of the show, would be this big to be continued angle, which is something they did from season 3 to 4, but this time it's going to be in a much sadder moment than what happened there. But of course, they don't do that, and they kind of do like they clearly added like an extra scene to the end of this season to be more happy, to show, oh, it's all fine, everything's fine, and they pretty much jump, like, I think it's like 7 years in the future, just to show everything's good now. I'm just like, I'm like, you could have even, I would have been pissed if they ended on the shootout scene, which, to be fair, makes sense to them why they've gone with the 7 years later, but I feel like they probably should have just gone with the 7 years later scene instead of the shootout scene, because it just killed it. They very clearly threw that in last minute because of them getting cancelled completely, because they're more than likely were setting up this to be continued angle for season 9 to kick off with, but then the cancellation before the series finale got close to airing, they were like, okay, shit, we need to shoot another scene, and they quickly shot this. They threw together a quick scene just to send people home happy, but for me, it killed it off entirely. It completely ruined the finale. Don't get me wrong, I love seeing them have this happy ending, but I just wish they would have got rid of the shootout angle before the happy ending. It just, as I say, for me, it killed it. They could have literally gone from the point when they are successful, they've won, they're all happy as Larry at the precinct, la la la. They then could have gone 7 years later, bam, family. They're really happy now, because they've given everyone throughout this season a moment to show that they are happy now. And especially in this finale, they're all in a place where they're good. So it's kind of annoying that they kind of went for the route of still having this to be continued angle instead of just cutting it out and going straight to this. It's just one of the many things that kind of bugged me with the finale. It made it my least favourite episode. Again, don't get me wrong, good episode. There's a lot going in it. There's some decent action sequences. It's just that ending killed it for me. Which I say is a shame, because before that, there's this really good interrogation scene with Castle where he's being interrogated by the villains, and he's got truth serum in his blood, and he's being fucking like forced to say who knows about Locksat, who knows all these details, and they go through a list of people, and the first few are just like their friends and all that, and he's struggling, but it's like, okay, it's fine, it's not too bad, but it's when they start getting to like, does your mom know, does your daughter know, and that's the point where like he's tearing up, he's struggling as hell to say no, but he can't say no because the truth serum is making him say yes, and so it's just, that scene was so good, but as I said, the whole episode got ruined by too much going on, too much crammed in, to try and wrap up the storyline, and then the idea of a to be continued angle being ruined by happily ever after angle. It just, I don't know, put a sour note on what is a pretty much solid show. I said, don't get me wrong, whole season was pretty good. It's just, this episode felt like something that could have been told over another series or two, rather than one last season. I feel like it could have probably gone to season 10 and told this story, dragged it out a bit more, like had the big villain appear more throughout, before finally revealing it's this character. Then it feels like a betrayal, not the way they handled it in the end. I still think it's a solid enough season. It's just, it's let down a bit by its ending, and just kind of drag it down. But it won't, I'm not going to hold it too much against the season, because I still had a lot of fun with it. Still a lot of twists and turns, and there's still a lot of like returns from characters to give them their final moments to shine. I mean, if I get Series 8 on my phone, obviously for starters, they wrapped up this main storyline. That's a pro, even if they did it kind of botchly. Episode 5 was pretty, obviously they did a pretty funny angle with obviously a character who could smell. Obviously that was fucking hilarious. I mean, there's a few good episodes. Detective Slaughter coming back, who's a character they introduced in one of the other seasons. Giving him another episode of Castle just is great, considering the fact they both worked on Firefly together. I mean, there's which episode is it? Episode 14, which is the one when they're obviously when they bring in the eventual reveal of, oh, he's the bad guy. Obviously, that brings in another character who obviously also worked alongside Nathan Fillion on Firefly. So it's there's a couple of Firefly reunions going on. But as I say, it's just looking back for these episodes, and I'm generally looking at season 8, sorry, and there's just not there's only one episode really that stood out for me, and that was late on in the season. Again, that was a more comedy episode. But then I look back at other seasons, and I've at least got maybe 2-3 episodes that I'd rate really highly. But that season it didn't hit off for me, which is an absolute shame. But I say it's still a solid season. I mean, every episode I pretty much rated near enough the same. It's just the series finale and a few episodes before that I didn't. Either I rated it slightly lower or I rated it higher, and it does counter out to the more even number. So it's just one of those things, isn't it? It's just most TV shows. It's very rare final season can do justice, but to fair to them, they tried their hardest to do it, considering the fact that they got cancelled and they had no choice but to try and figure out a way to make everyone happy enough. And it's just, they went for the wrong route with it, which is a damn shame because, as I say, first 3 seasons loved. Season 4 to Series 7, absolute great. Series 8 was building up to be a great series with a good cliffhanger ending, where they could have easily pulled Navranglov. Oh, you really think that guy was in charge? There's more to this story than you fucking think. That was just, that was just them keeping quiet truly on who's the big bad. So it's just one of those things. It's still an overall solid show. And if I move my notes down real quick, obviously I'm going to talk about my favourite episodes, because I think I've talked enough about the show as an overall. Because obviously last time I brought in the idea of picking, when I do a TV show, I pick out which one's my favourite specific episode from a season. And Series 4 offers quite a few decent ones. I mean, the first episode is a great opener with a really good solid first 10 minutes of is she going to die, is she not going to die. There's an episode with Ghosts and Demons, which is funny because the guy who plays the copper in the episode, he was obviously in Supernatural as the yellow-eyed demon, and he's in an episode called Demons of Castle, which is fucking ironic casting. Obviously, there's a bank robbery episode which allows Castle's mom to shine, Martha. Because to be fair, she doesn't do too much throughout the back end of this run. She gets a few episodes here and there, but she doesn't get a lot of time, really. I mean, neither does his daughter, but they both have episodes here and there where they get to shine. And for Martha, it's obviously the bank robbery episode. And obviously, which episode was that one? Hold on, give me a sec. Obviously, episode 4 was a good solid episode as well, which is obviously brings back the 3XK killer, and obviously involves Ryan in it because obviously his gun's using the murder, which allows him to have a really good episode to shine. Obviously, there's a 2-part episode again, which obviously brings in the CIA and stuff like that, which again, great episodes. I mean, the 2-parters are usually the fucking best episodes of these shows, but I feel like I'm going to give it to the series finale, which is Series 4, Episode 23, which obviously is the one when they finally get to the point of the relationship starting between Castle and Beckett, which is great. And I mean, even throughout that episode, it's great because obviously it's her pushing Castle away before bringing him in. And so it's got a really solid ending as well, which just makes me choose that one as my favourite one. Series 5 is going to be episode 15, which is part 1 of the 2-part plotline. Obviously, Series 5 offers a plotline involving Alexis being kidnapped, and it's kind of an angle of you think it's about the other girl being kidnapped, but it's not. It is fully about Alexis because they're trying to get to Castle because his dad's obviously a spy. His dad played by James Brolin, which is a great casting. That's the dad of Josh Brolin, which is funny because I remember watching one of the later seasons when he comes back. The same day I watched Weapons in cinema, which is, pretty funny since Josh Brolin's in Weapons and I watched his dad a few hours later in Castle. So I think the first part's my favourite because I like the second part, which is when he goes to France. He's trying to fully deal with it. You get a bit more about his dad, a bit more story going. But I feel like I'm going with part 1 because that's the one where you get to see Castle kind of break as a character. You get to see him pushed to his limits. I mean, at one point he literally goes into a room, shuts the door behind him, and interrogates the guy until he gets the information he wants. And Ryan and Harvey kind of just let it happen. I mean, they shouldn't let it happen because they're cops, but they can see what he's going through. Obviously, even to them, obviously Alexis's family, so they're kind of, okay, we're gonna turn a blind eye here. We're gonna be a bit of dodgy cops here. We're gonna look that other direction. Nothing's going on here, and I just really like that episode. But I did also like the Rear Window episode that's in the series where Castle's in a wheelchair the entire time because he's done his foot in, but he kind of has to go across the street to try and figure out if this guy's murdered his wife or his girlfriend. I can't remember off the top of my head. Which is funny because obviously many shows have done it. I mean, Simpsons have done it, fucking Family Guy's done it, and they always do a good job of it, and they did a good job with this as well, especially with the big reveal of what's actually going on was fucking hilarious. With Series 6, it is a tricky one because there is a couple of episodes I did like with this. First 2 episodes, obviously when you're dealing with Beckett's new job, they were really good. I also liked episode 22, which was... I just wrote the episode number, then actually didn't write which ones are about. Episode 22... it's the one obviously Beckett gets framed for murder. That one's a really good episode as well. But I'm actually going to give it to episode 20, which is called That 70s Show, which is a more comedy-based episode where they got to try and pretend it's the 70s because this guy, he can't... Basically, he's kind of stuck in the 70s in his brain, and they can't disrupt that. So they basically have to kind of just agree with him, and they kind of make the whole precinct at one point the 70s style. And the episode for me stands out mainly because of Ryan and Harvey when they go full into their roles and pretend to be these cops from the time. And there's some really funny moments with their dialogue choices. And when Harvey tries to slide over the bonnet of the car, and as he does, he completely fucking screws it up, and then gets up, and in the next shot he's there walking around going, oh, because he's completely fucked himself. So I feel like for me, I'm going to give that my favourite episode. And even Lonnie in that episode has a really funny moment when obviously Castle tells her about it beforehand and must send her a message, and it cuts to her. She's there pretending to be obviously again from that time period and speaks like from that time period, and it's just fucking hilarious, and it's a really nice ending as well. For Series 7, my favourite episode is going to be episode 9, Last Action Hero, which is just basically an actor gets killed, and obviously he used to be big in like action movies back in the day, kind of like a Stallone, Arnie type character. He's big in these movies back in the day, and obviously they have to try and solve this case to figure out who killed him, and obviously it kind of eventually leads Castle into joining this ragtag group of actors, these other aging action stars and one younger action star, because obviously they're filming an Expendables ripoff in this episode, and he kind of teams up with them because obviously they were his friend, and they think this guy's done it. He's got something they need. Cops can't go in there without obviously cause to go in there, so they kind of stage this massive heist to get in there. And it's like a really funny scene when they're walking, and there's like a massive explosion behind them. It's just the episode's just stupid as fuck, and that's why I feel like I'm going to give it to it. I say for that specific explosion and slow motion scene. Was there any episodes that stood out in that series for me? And so the Castle PI ones are really good. The final 2 episodes of the 3XK Killer one, which is episode 14 and 15, were really good. And I think that's it, really. So there's a couple of episodes that stood out in that season, but I just feel like giving it to The Last Action Hero just because it made me laugh the most. I say if it wasn't that, it would be the 3XK ones. And it'd be the debate between which one I would give it to, and I'd probably edge out the second part over the first part. But I say for comedy values, I'm just going to give it to The Last Action Hero because it was stupid as fuck. And then Series 8, again, comedy values is what I'm going to give it to here, which is Series 8, Episode 19, which is called Dead Again, which involves a guy that keeps getting killed, but keeps coming back to life, even though he's being pronounced dead. Like, they've checked his pulse, he's dead. But somehow he keeps coming back to life, and it involves Castle trying to find his origin story because he thinks he's a superhero. And it's just funny with the fact that like there's Harry that keeps dying, and the fact that they'll be talking, and next minute he'll be stood behind him, and they're like, "What the fuck? How's this guy not dead? This guy's the luckiest guy alive." and it was just fucking hilarious. I say there wasn't really much episodes that stood above the rest in Series 8. So I'm looking at the list of them here, and there's not. I mean, the plot line with the Russians was pretty funny. The episode when obviously Sergeant Slaughter came back, Detective Slaughter came back was pretty good as well. But I just felt like, just for the fact that this guy just kept acting like nothing had happened, even though he'd just been like poisoned, electrocuted, shot. Like he just acted like nothing had happened. I feel like that just fucking cracked me up, and made up for a series that was that ended on a poor note, really. So yeah, I feel like that's my favorite episodes. I feel like that's all my notes I wrote there for them. So obviously with that, I'd say it's pretty simple, really. I'd say, though I didn't like how they ended Series 8, I thought Series 8 was decent enough. It just obviously didn't stand out as much as the other seasons. It's still the same level of rating, it just didn't stand out. And I say it's still kept in that same rating because the counter between the weakest and my favourite episode, it kind of just counts it out to even out the numbers a little bit. So obviously, instead of giving like individual, I'm going to give like a overall rating for Series 4 to 8, and then give the overall for the entire seasons of Castle a rating. Saves me just going Series 4, Series 5, Series 6. It just saves me fucking messing around here. So I'll give Castle Series 4 to 8 a solid 9 out of 10. I say Series 8 is definitely its weakest in terms of there wasn't many episodes that stood out more than others compared to other seasons. And I say ended on such a poor note that it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. But it was still a solid enough season. And as I say, the rest of the series 4 to 7 are just outstanding as much as Series 1 to 3 was. And obviously it makes my job a lot easier as well in terms of overall rating. So my overall rating for Castle as an entire season, so Series 1 to 8, if we combine the 9 I gave Series 1 with the 9 I gave Series 2 and 3, and then the 9 I gave today, it's very simple. Castle as an overall show gets a 9 out of 10, which I think it deserves because it's something that it drew me in heavily. I binge watched it within just over a month, so that shows how much I really enjoyed my time with it. It's just a shame that it ended on such a bad note, but it's one of those swings and roundabouts situation where if you're hearing of how they're going to, obviously, there's some of the obviously the fact they shortened Series 9, they got rid of some of the key cast members. It's one of those swings and roundabouts where, okay, it's kind of okay they got cancelled, but if they had a decent enough storyline to carry on Series 9 from that cliffhanger ending before they, I say cliffhanger like that, before they added that time jump to make it happy, and if they had a decent enough story to carry on from that and make it obviously worthwhile, then, I would have been fine with another season. But if they didn't, then it's kind of like okay, I'm happy it ended where it did. Because I know I was seeing the ratings were starting to drop a little bit. That's one of the reasons they kind of like started cutting costs and like, okay, let's bugger this show off. Because other shows like Blind Spot apparently were coming out at that point from what I was reading, that were kind of taking a lot of the ratings, which makes sense because they're brand new. Unless obviously the show's got such a dedicated fan base, these new shows are probably going to drag it down in terms of ratings a little bit. Which I say is a little bit of a shame because I love Castle. It's such a good show. I mean, some good storylines, some good drawn-out storylines, some great one-shot storylines. And on top of that, there's a great cast, which obviously they all have comedy moments. They all have serious moments. They all at least tend to get one episode where they can shine the most, and that's what you want really from a TV show. You want even your side characters to get some big pivotal moments, and they all get that in this show. I say it made me laugh. Maybe get really invested in some of the really serious plot lines. It balanced the comedy and seriousness just right to stay afloat for me personally. So yeah, I can't think of anything else I really want to say. Obviously, if you've seen any of the seasons of Castle, obviously put your thoughts in the comments below if you enjoyed Castle. Obviously, what you would have liked to have seen if they did a 9th season. What would you like to have seen them do? And obviously, how do you think they could have approached Series 8 differently, considering... imagine it from the start, they knew Series 8 was the last. What would you like to see them... how would you like to see them approach this season to make it a more satisfying ending? Put those thoughts in the comments below. Obviously, you can check out the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Audible, Amazon Music, etc., etc. You you can obviously check out the podcast on YouTube as well. You get to see all my other content, where you obviously also find all the links to previous episodes if you want a quick way of getting to them. They're always in the description below if it's a linked episode, and this one will have the other seasons of Castle as links in the description below. Yeah, I feel like that's it. Obviously, don't forget to you can check out last week's episode of the podcast, which was obviously the next Maneater entry. Obviously, next week we're moving on. Well, actually, next 2 weeks we're doing back-to-back Maneater movies. Since we did miss a little week in September, so we're back into the Maneater series territory as the regular scheduled programming. And it's funny enough that we kick off this back-to-back Maneater series reviews with the fourth entry, which is Maneater, the tiger movie. So we're back into that. And now it's my brain trying to think of what's my next binge watch. I mean, I might not review it, but what's my next binge watch? I mean, one of them is definitely the t-shirt I've been wearing this entire podcast, which you can't see because my camera is a bit higher up. Obviously, if I move my fingers, obviously I'm wearing the t-shirt Serenity, which is obviously the ship that's in Firefly. So I'm debating about watching Firefly from start to finish. But there's so many other TV shows I'm looking at I could watch. I mean, I do want to watch Black Sails from the start. I want to finish watching Killjoys. I want to finish watching Wynonna Earp. There's just so many shows I want to watch. I mean, I said to Hayden, I was like, I want to binge watch Supernatural from the start. But it's just getting the urge to sit through fucking like that amount of seasons. I want to do like something shorter, I think, before I go into something big. And it's the bit of, I think I want to move away from cop shows for a bit. Because I binge watched this right after binge watching Hudson and Rex. So, you know, I want to kind of stay away from cop shows maybe for like another season, another show basically, move into something else and then come back to a cop type show. But either way, I hope you enjoyed my talk on Castle series 4 to 8. So don't forget to check out the other reviews on Castle. And obviously don't forget to tune in next week for Maneater. So until then, I hope you enjoyed and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.
If you like what you've seen, don't be afraid to throw us a little like and subscribe. That's always very appreciated over here. And, well, I'll see you on the next video.